All right, producer Conor is here because we were texting about the 49ers depth. What is the bare minimum they need out of this draft? And I want to go through it because, Conor, as you know, my take the other day was this team has enough top-end talent. And so we started debating, what do they need this year out of this draft to win? Their schedule should be beneficial. Their schedule is beneficial. So that's the question, right? Like, I know you like the idea that they have enough top-end talent. Do they have enough depth becomes the other question. And if they have injuries, I think the answer to that is no.
Yeah, you can't have CMC out. I think offense is where I'm not concerned.
Okay.
Hinging on Christian McCaffrey being healthy.
Yeah.
Defense. Now, Robert Saleh has his handful, but yeah, I think the concern lies on defense, mainly D-line.
Well, and I would say this too. This is most teams. Like when you look at the healthiest teams in the league last year, I'm showing a graph for those of you watching on YouTube. The right side is the most injuries, and the left side is the healthiest. The Lions, this is Sports Info Solutions. They have a total points missed, which is offense and defensive players measurement. The Lions overcame a ton of injuries. They were the highest scoring team in a bad way in the NFL in this. Your healthiest teams in the league last year, your 10 healthiest teams in the league last year, won 67% of their games. Even with the Lions winning a bunch of games, the 10 least healthy teams, and the Niners were fifth, the least healthy, won 42% of the games. You win 20% more games if you're in the 10 healthiest versus the bottom 10, if you're the most hurt. So let's start with that. Like, this applies to the Niners, but it applies to everybody. If Christian McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams never play this year, and I know Ayuk's missing half the year. So if McCaffrey and Trent Williams miss a bunch of time, then they're screwed. They don't have enough depth to overcome that.
Yeah.
But if those guys are healthy, and the Packers were healthy, the Bills were really healthy, the Commanders, those were your three healthiest teams last year. Makes sense. Then I do think they've got almost enough to have a good year, like because they're scheduled to win a bunch of games. So anyway,
yeah,
that's kind of the background here.
We saw the health in 2020, 4 years later in 2024, sort of the same sort of healthy departure of these players. Ayuk went out. We had all these guys go down with injury.
Right.
Even Brock was out a few games. So hopefully it's a 4-year cycle and we're back on the healthy side again. But yeah, I think, everything on offense relies through CMC. Kittle had a career year. We won 6 games. So he's important, clearly, but CMC is a difference maker. We saw it in 2023. And I think his difference in dynamic ability in the red zone, I think that's where it's critical.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I would also argue on Kittle, like, they had a chance to win a bunch of other games in part because of how good George is. Like, I don't think last year proves that he's not, you know what I mean? Like, I think you had chances in part because this guy's so good. So you need that again. You do need that again.
No slight to George Kittle there, but not for him to catch a stray. But yeah, I mean, I think there's more to it than George Kittle making phenomenal plays and being the only guy.
I guess my point, Conor, is like, how many games do you win if George doesn't have a career year? 4?
Well, maybe they're in a better spot drafting pick number 5.
Yeah, but you need him and you need McCaffrey, and like part of the recipe is George Kittle having a great year in addition to. So here's the first part: offense. And I know, John Lynch spoke on Monday. Seems very committed to Jake Brendel as the center. Their offseason tells us the same. Do you need a starter in the draft on offense to win 11 games? I think not really. Not this year. Like, you need depth, and depth really matters in 2026 and like those guys develop into starters next year. Maybe you got to replace Trent Williams. I know we don't love it, but I would say you can do, like, if McCaffrey's healthy and you have Jennings and Pearsall and Kittle and Isaac Arendo, a good backup running back, Trent Williams is healthy, even if Ben Barch is your left guard and Brendel and Pooney and McKivitz, I think you can win games with this, provided some of this other stuff we're about to talk about happens. But what do you think? Do you need another starter on offense to have a chance to win? Let's just say be a playoff team, like 10 games, like 10. With this schedule.
No, because the 49ers were, I think, were they top 5 team in yards moved. Like they could move the ball last year with backup running back all year, with Trent Williams out for most of the season. So no, to win 10 games, no. Obviously, it would be very nice, but not to get greedy here. I don't think they do, because this is essentially last year's team with two more key pieces back, CMC and Trent Williams. So no, I think agree with you there. It'd be very nice if they got a left guard. It'd be really nice if they got a right tackle, but I don't think so.
And I mean, the point you're making too is to go back to your red zone point. Like, they move the ball. If McCaffrey's the key in the red zone, then yards turn into points. Right. That's your thing is like, I know you've been texting me this. Like, their defense, their red zone defense and offense is just atrocious.
Yeah, I think that was like such a huge underlying problem that players and coaching, it's everything, but the Niners went from 2023 number 1 on the red zone off to middle of the pack, I think, to number 14. And that changes the game script. That flips everything, right? You're going up 3 points, you're going up 7 points, you're going up 14 points, you're going up 6 points. And also those 3 and 6 are not guaranteed anymore.
Hey, Moody, injuries apply to Moody too, right?
True.
If we accept Moody was not good because he got hurt.
Who do you think on defense? Okay, how many defensive starters do they need to add in April to win 10, 11 games?
Yeah, I mean, part of this is like, what's realistic? And you have to add a starter. Like, let's just start with that. Let's just say they add one starter in the draft on defense, like an immediate day one starter, right? Like, Renardo Green became a starter. Malik Mustafa became a starting level player. But week 1, and I do think the most obvious place that you add a day one starter in the draft is defensive line. Because it requires the least amount of like adjustment in terms of learning the game at the right. Like you're starting safety, that's tough. Even a starting linebacker, it's because you got Fred Warner's a little easier. But I think minimum you have to add a day one starter right away. And luckily for them, they have the 11th pick. I would say, just looking at their depth chart, they're probably down 3 starters on defense, which is a lot. Like, could you get by? Now, maybe they could get by, like cornerback 1 being Lenore, or he's your nickel, and Renardo Green. So your other spot, most teams don't have 2. Like, what the Niners had last year is kind of an exception, right? Mooney Ward plus Diamador Lenore. We saw they did not have a starting level starter, it felt like, at that other corner position. So I would say you need yeah, you need another defensive lineman. That is number 1.
I think so too.
Do you need another linebacker? Eventually, yes, you do. Is D. Winters going to be their starter for the next 5 years? I know there's some optimism. My bet is no. He's not going to be Dre Greenlaw's long-term replacement. But I think what they really are is down 3 starters, as I look at it, on this defense. And I think if they can add one who's a day one starter and one who is by the end of the first month of the season, like, oh, we got something here in this linebacker, or, oh, we got something here in this rotational corner, then I think they're in okay shape. Again, in 2026, 2027, you're going to need more of that draft. By the end of the year, you'll probably need more of that draft from a depth standpoint. But in terms of what's realistic, I think eventually you need 3, and I think you can get away with 2. One who's a day one starter and one who's kind of ready to roll the way Malik Mustafa was a month into the season. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say D-line is the most critical. And you see Robert Saleh going back to his first 49er tenure. It seemed like their D-line was the best in the NFL, and it led them to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. And so, yeah, I think peppering picks, because this is a deep defensive line draft. I mean, what are your thoughts on doubling up on D tackle? I mean, that's a glaring need. Edge also a need, but those guys, like, it seems like these edge picks are more 3-4 guys. I don't know if they're the kind of tweeners. They're just kind of all over the place, but I think it starts with the interior defensive line.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is the draft for that, and the Niners are stockpiling picks. But I think that's glaring need number 1 on defense. I'm interested to see what Trey Brown brings. I mean, I know he's bounced around. I would also argue over corner, linebacker is more important, because that tandem with Warner, like, Warner is Warner because of Greenlaw also. and Bowman and Willis were so good because they had each other.
Yeah,
So
I think you're right. Like I'm reassessing, listening to you talk. Corner is the least important because you have two good ones. Yeah,
yes,
we have one Pro Bowler.
right.
That puts you in the majority of teams. Most teams don't have two Pro Bowl DBs. Now you're not just trying to be any team, but getting to the quarterback makes your DBs better, right? Creating pressure makes your corners better. So they're probably down 4 like blue chip starters because it's 2 D linemen at least. So it's 1 tackle, 1 edge,
Yep.
the linebacker that replaces the spirit of Dre Greenlaw, and another DB. I don't love Jair Brown's. I don't love the Jair Brown Malik Mustafa combo. I like Malik Mustafa. I like Jair Brown as like my third safety. I'm not in love with both those guys as starters, but
Yeah.
I think you really sacrifice coverage ability. So that concerns me. But again, get to the quarterback, score in the red zone, get to the quarterback, play with a lead, and now your defensive backfield is good enough.
They need someone that can get home. Yeah, no, I think that's
so that's why they are down. They're down an edge and a tackle, and the bar right now on this roster for another edge is not that high.
Yeah, Gross Matos breakout game against the Bears. Yeah,
I like the depth that Sam O provides, but you just need to get somebody in there who can, by the middle of the season, kind of give you a lot of snaps because you're not finding. It doesn't feel like at this point you're not like getting Nick's NASCAR, brother in this thing. You're not getting the other. You're not adding Joey Bosa.
So what? If it's not a contract year, does it seem like Nick Bosa can get home for whatever reason?
Yeah, yes.
No, but I'm kidding.
Look at you acting like Twitter.
No, here what really like what good D lines do though is like look at the Eagles. The Super Bowl they had, I don't know how many interior sacks they had, but Mahomes was stepping up in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
They do need someone inside that can clean up. Nick Bosa is phenomenal at pressures. His pressure percentages are always top 5. And so someone who can clean up the mess and get home. And Armstead made a living off that.
Yeah.
Buckner made a living off of that.
Yep.
So I think that is the order of operations: defensive tackle, edge, and then a linebacker. And then after that, I think you roll with what you have on the back end.
Yeah. And I would say like, we can talk about, do you draft for need or best player available? I think your other edge is more important than the second linebacker, theoretically. But I think you're probably more likely to find a starting level linebacker in the second or third round than you are like a true blue chip edge that just grabs that spot and runs with it. Like Drake Jackson not developing is really, that's really hurt them. But, you don't necessarily get to, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, on that point, like they're pick 11, and we know it's a very deep draft class. I want to throw some players at you, but do you draft for need or do you draft best player available, sort of the NBA, style?
Yeah. What's hard is like if the best player available is a receiver.
What if it's Tyler Warren sitting there at 11?
It's so attractive. I love the idea of it. It feels a little reckless.
Totally.
But the fact that Ayuk is hurt, the fact that George, he's playing at such a high level, you could certainly use. Here's the thing about Tyler Warren. He does help you in the red zone. Now, he's not like Colson Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan, is kind of a Travis Kelce, meaning he can create space for himself in small areas. So he's more that guy. But clearly Tyler Warren fits this offense better. It's like I was talking to my buddy Jake Butt, who played him. It was the best tight end, a Mackey Award winner. He gets hurt. It totally derails his NFL career. And I asked him this question the other day. I'm like, all right, which one? He's like, it just depends on what kind of offense you run. They're just two different types of players. And for the Niners, his opinion, we should get him on the show. His opinion was, because he also had a take on Mason Graham. His opinion was the Tyler Warren's the better fit. And it makes sense. Like, it's obvious. You don't have to be. But to answer your question, I do think generally, like when you're drafting at 11, take eventually you do need the high ceiling guy. The Eagles, we love their D-line depth. Yeah, they got blue chippers on that defensive line. Like, you need the best. Yeah. So could the Niners use an offensive tackle? Hell yeah, they could, for now and for later. Could they upgrade a defensive tackle? Of course. If the best player is head and shoulders above the rest is the tight end, okay. So I do think the best, over time, you are just throwing darts at a dartboard and you're playing a volume game. And so if you're going to play a volume game, you need to draft the best players available to you, and that gives you the best odds of nailing the most picks. As opposed to, it really feels like you're threading a thin needle if you're drafting we could use this guy this way and this guy this way and this guy this way. And that's the beauty of defensive line. The best defensive lineman available, you got a spot for him. I think.
And I think once you go into drafting for a need, you then kind of you can get cheeky and be like, let's trade back a couple slots. Oh, he's taken. Then you start to run out of it's craziness with those 10 minutes that are ticking down. And so that becomes the game. And so I think it's best player available. But what if the best player available is Ashton Genty? You're not taking running back, right? Okay. So then it goes down to Tyler Warren. And I think he has to be the pick if he's there. Can you imagine 22 personnel?
I can.
You have George Kittle on the left, Warren on the right, Juice, CMC. How do you stop that? You could run the ball down their throat. You could put everyone out on a route. Offense
you're helping the
dynamic.
Quarterback you just paid. You're helping him a lot.
Correct.
You're making it easier to trade Ayuk when he's healthy. The one thing you'd say about Tyler Warren is Andy Koltnicki is the offensive coordinator at Penn State, and he was a first-year offensive coordinator. For people who don't know him, he was really good at Kansas. He was part of the revitalization of Kansas football being fun and interesting. And, it would just be a very different situation for Tyler Warren. He was the center of the Penn State offense. And everyone watching this probably has watched some Tyler Warren YouTube by now, if you didn't watch him during the season. Even if you didn't watch college football, you probably saw Tyler Warren play because they did the craziest stuff in the world with him. And it would just make it'd be all over everywhere. Even if you weren't watching college football, it'd be some of the formations they ran with him were crazy. And then they line him up at left tackle, and then he'd run straight up the seam, and they'd throw him a ball over the top, and he'd make the catch in double coverage. You'd be like, oh shit, what the hell was that? They did that multiple times. So that you do have to acknowledge what you would get out of him is a guy who got suddenly a lot more productive. So it was just basically 1 year of big time production. But that 1 year didn't happen because he was on the most talented team in the world. It happened because he got a really creative offensive coordinator, took over and just made him the centerpiece of the offense. He would not be the centerpiece of the 49ers offense, right? We see it but we see it McCaffrey and Ayuk and Debo and Jennings and Kittle. All those guys don't all go off in the same game. Yeah. Now, the good thing about Tyler Warren is he can also block. So he doesn't have to be the centerpiece of the offense.
6'6", 260.
Is he really that? Was that his combine metrics or weigh-ins, height measurement?
Is
he really that big?
6'6", 260, 6'5.5", 256, 31 3/4 inch arms. And we just talked earlier about they need defense for the starters. They need defense. But if he's there, you have to take him because he's also he's a future plan as far as Kittle can't go forever. And so I think outside of Warren being available, you go D-line and you start that process over with whether it's an edge or a defensive tackle. And Robert Saleh, you build up that D-line again. But by the way, Tyler Warren, if someone from Shanahan's tree gets his hands on Tyler Warren, that's going to be so frustrating. In the Niners pass up on him. If he goes to the Rams or someone else, that will be infuriating because he's going to make so many plays.
Yeah, I would say seeing him on the Rams is probably the top of the list. If he goes to Miami, because you see the Rams all the time.
Vikings,
whatever. Let him go to JJ McCarthy. Let him go. Whatever.
Yeah, he's a Niner. Hopefully,
he'll be. Here's the thing: he will be available. Yeah, I think it's a lock to be available to be there at 11. I mean, lock. This is just me making a prediction. I think he's there. And what if?
Do you think they
I
take him?
don't.
So they're drafting for.
Well, I just
now,
this is our evaluation that Tyler Warren's better than Mason Graham. Like, what if they think Mason Graham's better, or whoever?
Yeah, that's. Okay. What do you think of all these edge rushers? Like, there's certain prototypes of 49ers have to have. Like the guy James Pierce from Tennessee doesn't seem like he's 245 pounds. Like Michael Williams, I think, is also pretty small. I don't know if edge is the move with the 49ers at this point, because
you brought it up earlier. I thought it was
weird.
a good point. Like, if the two best defensive linemen that are available to you when you draft are defensive tackles, so be it. Like, the Eagles drafted 4 guys out of Georgia in a 2-year span.
Yeah, I mean, if the Niners get Jordan Davis, not even Jalen Carter, if they get Jordan Davis, that's a great draft pick. I mean, it's not the best, but it's a serviceable player who starts. And
why isn't Jared Verse? See, if you took Jared Verse at 11, you're like, I don't know, overdrafted, could have been available at 19.
Yeah.
Where was he last year in the draft in terms of, he was the 19th player, but how many defensive linemen went ahead of him? I got it here. I should put it here.
All right. Yeah, put it up. There's a million quarterbacks that went, but I think it looks like it was Byron Murphy, Dallas Turner. So 2.
No. Dallas Turner, Laiatu Latu.
Excuse me. Yeah.
At 15. And that's right. I forgot about that. Latu was the first defensive lineman taken when he went 15th overall. It's just so atypical because you had all these quarterbacks go. Would you have 6 quarterbacks in the top 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 quarterbacks. That's not happening. I don't know. The 6th quarterback in this draft is going to go in like the 4th round. Yeah. Probably not. The 3rd. I mean, potentially the 3rd round is when the 6th quarterback in this draft goes. So you had 6 quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3 receivers. I mean, to not have, well, I guess Joe Alt went 5. It's kind of crazy to not have a D lineman or an offensive lineman go in the top 4. How often does that happen? Which is what happened last year, because you had 3, quarterbacks and then a wide receiver.
Yeah, the Niners got on a little unlucky.
It happened the year before, actually.
Yeah, it was the wrong year. Like, this year there's 2 I mean, are 2 for sure going to go before the Niners? Probably, right? But Cam Jackson Hart sneak up top 10 pick? Probably not. He's probably a middle first round or late first round. So the Niners are getting a little bit screwed in that sense, as far as like those blue chip players being available later on.
Yeah, Abdul Carter might go 2, 1.
Yeah.
He's sweet. Okay. Did you see, by the way, number 11? Number 11 at Penn State's a big deal.
Yeah, LeVar Arrington, right?
LeVar Arrington's son is wearing it now. He's a true freshman. And he looks, I saw a clip of him the other day. He looks incredible.
They have phenomenal uniforms. The simplistic blue jerseys.
They do.
I'm for it.
I'm for it. That place, when they have a whiteout at that place, so cool on TV.
Yeah. It just sounds good.
Make your all
right, last, I have a question for you. Yeah, so is there any chance, or I guess, what do you put the chance at, given your sense right now, the 49ers trade back from 11?
I don't think they do it. Unless it's to a spot. Unless it's like Ashton Genty's there. But I don't think they can go too far. I think you got to get a guy that you think can start right now. I don't think they can go very far. And they got plenty of picks.
Okay, what about trading up?
That definitely feels unlikely.
Right. Especially no quarterback, better be a like Mason Graham.
But even then, he's not the blue chipper, right? That you got to go get.
Yeah, trading up for non-quarterbacks, I feel like, is a later first round move.
I mean, if you feel like there's 10 first round picks and you've got the 11th pick, then I understand it. But it just doesn't seem like what they would do.
Okay, and the 49ers have 3/7, 2/5,
Oh, yeah.
2/4, 2/3, a second. Okay, so what are the chance? Like, what do you put the chance at that they move up maybe in the third or the fourth? Do you see them climbing up there?
That would not.
Because this is a
Yeah,
deep
that would
D
not be
line.
surprising, right?
Okay,
What do you think?
I'd hope they do that. I hope that's sort of the plan. I mean, there's a lot of guys to draft. I hope they move up to that middle round and just, like you said, throw darts, throw a
So
million
yeah,
darts
yeah.
at the
You got
defensive
enough
line
dart. Yeah,
and just see.
I know. I'm with you. You got enough darts you can throw. Get a linebacker, maybe two, like they did
Yeah.
the Jalen Graham D winners year. And again, I don't think either is going to end up as a starter for them.
Yeah.
But okay. One starter. It doesn't now, even if people are going to disagree with that, like, no, you need three starters. I just think the bare minimum one starter, if you guarantee me they got a defensive, like a real starter, not just some guy who's starting because he has to, I think they just give themselves a chance if they're healthy.
Yeah, if they got Jared Verse of last year, it's completely different.
Look at the optimism on this guy.
You know. But yeah, he's a starter. He's phenomenal.